common mistake that parents make, young and old, across generations. And what prompted this thought was a conversation I had with a young woman, immigrant, whom her family had immigrated late enough in her life that she grew up largely American, but her parents are very much still of another culture, and so there's a cultural divide just within her own family. This is a very common story. And she was telling me about her struggles with her family. And it really dawned on me a day after having had this conversation that there's this thing happening psychologically with parents that I don't know we've ever really sat down and pointed at. And that is that parents will often guide their parenting decisions based on whatever resentments they hold toward their own parents. So for instance, it's very common for immigrant families to resent the lack of wealth or the lack of opportunity, in particular those coming to the US. They often come to the US with this idea of giving their children more opportunities, a better place to raise them, etc. And then those immigrants that do succeed in doing that and end up entering middle class neighborhoods or above will feel like their kids should be grateful that they were given this, because they know what they would have had if they had stayed back home, right? Now, that usually means those parents are probably neglecting their own kids and spending a lot of time working hard to provide. Because as much as this is the land of opportunity, there's no free lunch here either. And then those kids, through that neglect, will grow up feeling resentful of the lack of love, and attention that they were given, and may, if they become parents, will raise their kids in a manner where they just want to be home with the kids and give them a lot of attention and a lot of care and a lot of love. Now this, of course, can manifest in toxic ways as well, like being overprotective, being a bit of a helicopter parent, and then that child grows up being resentful of how constraining and controlling the parent was, and then they grow up to be the kind of parent that just puts no boundaries on kids and lets kids do whatever they want until eventually they find themselves having to call the cops on their own children, right? So it's and these patterns ultimately end up looping in on themselves, because you end up eventually producing a child that is such a failure in society that they're not able to have any wealth, and they may have lots of kids and not able to provide them anything, and those kids grow up to be resentful for the lack of what they received, and it just repeats. And so it's this unconscious pattern of parents wanting to parent themselves. They're parenting their own children as if they had an opportunity to parent themselves when they were kids, but this is a mistake. To an extent. To an extent it's good to learn from the flaws of our parents, but in order to maintain a state of balance and consciousness, you must also, in addition to being observant of the things they did wrong, also be observant of the things they did right. So that you have a balanced, clear-viewed version of your past. Otherwise, it's within unbalance that you end up building either resentment on the negative side or over adoration on the positive side. yeah, I think this is an important thing to bring to the surface to our level of consciousness as parents, especially, or people wanting to become parents. Oftentimes, people just want to be parents because they want to rush toward addressing some grievance of their own past, which is wrong. That is wrong to take that approach. And however, it happens. I see it all the time. And curious what you think, whether or not you think I'm onto something here. And if you have observed these examples of this in others or in yourself, please share it in the comments. I'm curious to hear other ways in which a pattern that a parent showed to a child manifested later, and how that child grew up to become a parent. Very interesting. Thanks for watching.